Alright, so hello everybody. I'm gonna try something new today. Just showing off some of the stocks I've been doing research on. So it's a little late, but welcome if you're watching. Let me just go through some of the stocks that I've seen. I'm gonna kind of go quickly on some of these, but just show you some things that you should look at as far as investing. Of course, I'm not licensed to give out advice or a licensed broker or anything like that, but these are just some of the picks that I have. Some of them I have in my portfolio. If I don't have them yet, I will let you know. But there's a couple big ones that I'm gonna briefly breeze through. This is one of them. Everybody's talking about these: Tilray, CGC, Aurora Cannabis. Those are kind of the big dogs in Canada, and it's being preached pretty much everywhere just because Canada is legalizing it. But the U.S. market is actually much bigger than Canada. California alone is as big, if not bigger, than Canada, the whole Canadian market. So just keep that in mind when you're investing. So some of these stocks are a little bit overpriced, if not a lot overpriced for how much money they're making. It doesn't really mean much because we don't know which one of these companies in Canada is going to become the powerhouse, similar to like an Amazon or something like that. Once these companies start to expand and grow and get into the medical field and all kinds of stuff, they could become powerhouses in Canada, so they could be well underpriced if that's the case. So you always want to keep that in mind when you're doing your investing. Ton of stories to read through when you're looking at companies like these because everybody and their mom is talking about them. Every day you have a brand new story. I'm viewing this on TD Ameritrade, by the way, so it's one of my favorite platforms to use. So if you are interested in trading, that's a good thing to do. They have all kinds of tools and stuff like that. So just some of the basic things to look at. I don't really pay attention much to charts. I'm not a big fan of trading based on charts because you can't really tell, especially on stocks like these. You wouldn't really be able to tell when stocks are going up, when they're going down. So it doesn't really make sense to kind of go off of that. Big things that you want to look at is definitely earnings if they have them available, which most times they're not going to show on this page. So you have to actually look at the filings from the SEC, which even that sometimes is not available on TD Ameritrade. So you have to actually go to a website, go to the SEC filings, and then view them. But we're going to look at a couple companies that do have their filings through TD Ameritrade just so you can pull it up. This is actually a Canadian stock, so most of their stuff would probably be on a Canadian exchange. So anyways, so moving on from this one, my opinion on this one, I would give this an A as far as long-term investments. So I would give that an A. I think it deserves it. It's a great company. They have a very smart manager, CEO, who is going to take the company places for sure. But I don't want to spend too much time on that, and I feel like I already have. All right, so going into one of my favorites, MSIG is definitely a power play in my opinion. They have a ton of things going for them. So just kind of looking at some of the most recent things, they've gotten into the pet market for CBD, which that's a huge market for marijuana or CBD or hemp or anything like that. It's a huge market because most people are buying these types of things for their pets to make sure their pets stay healthy. I know I have a couple friends, one that actually owns a pet shop, as well as a few others, but he was telling me kind of about this market and how large it is, and I mean it's huge, guys. Like it's something you definitely want to look into. But they're already in the market. They do all organic products for that market, as well as let's look. They have New York Acres, which is a huge thing. New York Acres is about 200. I want to say 220 acres worth of land that they purchased. They've already started growing in about 40 acres of it, and that alone is going to produce about 55,000 pounds of CBD. So huge, huge, huge. They're estimating about 10 million in revenue, which they'll be announcing soon how much of a yield they got from that. And then let's see. Then a couple other things. They announced their earnings. They made pretty good money. They did have before adjustments they did have a loss, but after adjustments they did have about $1 million in profit. That's huge for a marijuana company, which you'll see as we go through this. There's not many companies, even the large companies like this one, don't actually make much of a profit. They're still under, and that's because the market is still new, so it's tough to make a profit in this market. So it says a lot about the company and the management that it already is making a profit. Also, it has a smaller amount of outstanding shares. 519 million is not it's really not a whole lot when you start looking at a lot of the companies. That's a big thing for me, finding companies with low outstanding shares, just because the outstanding shares is kind of what makes the company move. So if you have the large companies like when you think of even like Amazon's or Nike or anything like that, those companies percentage wise don't move very quickly. So you may be able to make 20-30% on those stocks year to date, like after a full year. But those kind of companies aren't the ones where you're going to make 20-30% in a day, or and that's because of how many outstanding shares there are. If there's a billion shares out there, then to move the price, it takes a lot more people trading that stock at a higher price. So it's just something to keep in mind. I'll go a little bit more into detail into each company as things progress, kind of on my own time, just because I have a life, a very busy life, so I'm just trying to help out whenever I can on giving some advice on who to invest in. Um, Another one that is very interesting, Kaya Holdings or Kaya Holdings, also in healthcare, pharmaceutical, and it's a marijuana company. Just a couple things. They make pretty good money. They increase their earnings about 60%. That's not saying a whole lot because again, this is another company that just doesn't make that much. If we look at their financials for their quarterly. And one of the quickest things, once you learn how to read one of these reports, which if you don't know how, I would highly suggest doing some research on how to read these reports. But when you kind of scroll into it to see how much money they're making, first page is kind of showing some of the assets and liabilities, so you can kind of read through these to see how much they have in assets. Quite a lot in assets, 1.3 million. But look at the liabilities. There's just a ton of it. And then when we get to sales, they only have 291,000 in sales. So again, like I said, when you find these types of companies, it's really hard right now to find a marijuana company that actually makes a profit or makes any money at all. I mean, 291,000. That's great for I mean, this is a quarterly financial as well, I believe. 10Q. So 10Q is a quarterly. So that's in a quarter. 6 months they made about $500,000. So they're only making about $1 million a year. It's really not great in the long. I mean, in the long term. But also going back to this, when you look at the outstanding shares. And then the market cap, if you make $1 million a year and your market cap is only 18 million, that's not terrible. I mean, it's not great, but it's not terrible either when you look at a lot of the other companies. That's why this one is actually, I would probably say this one is about a B plus. I think at the current price, it does have a lot to grow. It really depends on management and what they do to increase their revenue. So far, so good. Kind of looking back, I want to see if I can get some of the SEC filings on this one. Yeah, okay. So let me show you an example of the financials. So on this one, I'll show you kind of how this company actually does make quite a bit of money. And after looking at the last one, you can kind of compare the two. So when we view this one, you have, again, quite a bit in assets. Let me kind of scroll through. They own quite a few companies, so there's a lot of this. And it is important to kind of read through this, but I'm just not going to do that now because we don't have forever. Give me a second. Let me just get to financials. Here we go. So, in viewing kind of year over year, they've almost doubled their sales. And again, you look at the last one, it made $1 million a year, and this one makes $7 million a year. So that is really, really good for a marijuana company in the United States. They operate in the United States, and it's only legal in a few places in the United States. After November, it's going to be voted again. And once it keeps growing and legalizing, I think this will be the power play. This will be the company to beat in the United States as far as marijuana goes. Tilray has gotten the okay to start testing in the United States, but they are not operating in the United States as far as I know yet. But that's a good reason why Tilray, I think, is a power play too. It's just right now it's so volatile. It's not something that I would get into unless I was going to be in the stock for a good 5-10 years. So anyways, the sales 7 million. Once it kind of gets through to the end, it does show a loss. But that's before they calculate in like their tax write-offs and all kinds of stuff like that. So this is kind of doing the whole. So right now it's at about $1 million loss. But again, once they actually adjust everything and make sure that they do it kind of accurate, they show about $1 million profit for the year, which is pretty good. Again, most companies don't make a profit at all, whether it's adjusted or not. So this is another company. On this one, I would say, again, it's low outstanding shares, which is always a great thing. Low market cap, 38 million total, which all you do to figure out the market cap is you divide the outstanding share, or I'm sorry, you multiply the outstanding shares by the current price, and that gives you the market cap. So that's just the amount of money that is put into the stock as a whole. So 38 million in this one. On this one, I mean, again, I'm going to go into detail on these companies, but I like this one because of the outstanding shares. And then let's see if we can pull up their last 10K. Let's look at the Q because it'll be a little quicker. So this is the quarterly rather than the yearly or annually. They have quite a bit in assets, 2.6 million. I'm sorry, 3.8 million total in assets. That's pretty darn good. And then revenue, they make about 2 million. So that's decent money. Again, we're talking. This is this is 3 months. So this is a quarter. So 6 months, 4 million. So they make about $8 million a year. Really good numbers. They still have a loss for operations, so they do lose money. But as I said before, these companies really don't make money. These marijuana companies, because it's not legalized and everywhere in America right now, it's just they're not making money. With that being said, if the company is making $8 million a year and the market cap is only 38 million, we're talking 4 years and you'll have made your money back on this stock. Meaning, if you make in revenue, not talking profit, but basically, if you bought the company at 38 million, if you could turn it and make sure it makes a profit, you could grow in this company. So it's definitely worth looking at. I would put this one at an A, and I'm gonna review it kind of more in detail, but I do want to go through some of my other top picks. And this is, by the way, these top picks are really based off of, I looked at 250 different marijuana companies operating in the U.S. That are kind of small-time companies, not necessarily the power players. I can do another video on the power players, but for now, I'm more looking at the small time where you might be able to make more money or more of a profit. Now, of course, more money, the higher the risk, the higher the reward, so it is a risk, but anyways, keep that in mind. This is another one. So, only 35 million outstanding shares with an $8 million market cap. I mean, that right there says that the stock can move very quickly. I mean, like, very quickly. With only 35 million shares outstanding, the stock can go up 100, 150, 200%. in no time, just because of the outstanding shares being so little, with how little people have the stock or own the stock. So looking at the assets, they have none. So again, these companies like, if you look, and I looked through 250 of them, and these were the best. So some of these companies, I mean, no assets at all. When we look at revenue, no revenue at all. What I do like about the company, even though the income is so low, it does have quite a bit of potential to grow. If you read about the company, they have just a lot of different things that they're doing to try and um, kind of improve over time. I would do a lot of research on this company before investing to make sure it's something that you believe in long term. If you think the company can grow long term and get better and better, then it could, you could make some money on this one. But with the low volume that it has, let's look at the volume here. So 10-day volume, 308,000. So it's pretty low volume for the price of the stock. Um, if you compared it to, say, this one, you're at 2 million 10-day volume. So 2 million shares are traded per day on average. So it's low volume means it's harder to sell if you make a profit. So that's something to keep in mind. You don't want to buy something that you can't sell, because it doesn't matter if you make 100% profit if you can't sell the stock. So keep that in mind. All right, going on to the next one. Another one with really low outstanding shares. That's why I picked a lot of these. They're micro cap stocks. This one I like because it reports pretty often as far as letting you know what's going on for the quarter. That's normally a pretty good sign. That means that they care about their shareholders. They want to make sure they're doing the right thing. But also they have quite a bit in assets. When you talk about, I mean, we're talking a $4 million market cap. They have $500,000 in assets, and they do terrible in revenue, but again, better than most. They operate on a loss right now, which um, a lot of people wonder, like, kind of how companies can do this. They make no money yet they still survive. They're pretty much surviving off of the stock market, as well as investments. And a lot of times you can technically make, well, we won't go there. So yeah, this stock is another one I would just research. If they start to do things where they're going to increase their revenue quite a bit, then I would definitely be ready to put into that one. Otherwise, I might throw like $100 at it, if that. So you want to put a small amount into that. But again, what I love about these stocks that I'm looking at today is the outstanding shares, the market cap, and then the revenue and how often they're actually filing through the SEC. Are they doing what they're supposed to? And do they have a profit potential in the future? All right, so this next one, same story as always. Let's look at some of the filings here. And by the way, these companies, out of the 250, I would say 200 of them you couldn't even find anything that was filed. They have to file, but they don't have to file that often. So the SEC doesn't even. It was tough to find the companies with stuff filed through the SEC. So this one's huge. This is a quarterly report. You look at their revenue; they have quite a bit of revenue. Their cost of goods sold is high, as well as their administration expense. Now, something to keep in mind with this, when you have a revenue this high, sometimes the expenses and stuff you want to be higher. As a corporation, that would mean that you're not paying any taxes. So you could write off some of the taxes for this year. Next year, like if you were planning on making 4 million next year, well, you could take the extra 3, this loss that you took here, and then again next year on your taxes you would have no taxes to pay. So you make $3 million and you don't pay any taxes. That's, I mean, I don't know about you, but that's exactly what I would do if I could. Not that I don't do that. So anyways, but yeah, so something to keep in mind for these. Yeah, so this one makes 1.3 million in revenue. Not bad in the grand scheme of things. You would like to see these companies start to make a lot more. But as you saw from the previous ones, and if you looked through the list of 250, you would be lucky to find companies with any assets at all and any revenue at all. And that's why it's so important that you do these things and look up. You can be investing in companies that not only won't tell you what revenue or assets they have, but they don't have any. You know, a lot of these companies make negative money, so it's something to keep in mind. This is a big one. I really like this company. Not invested in it right now myself, but I do plan on getting into it at some point. Super low outstanding shares, super low market cap, and if we look at their quarterly financials, so going into the assets, they have a lot in assets, and then revenue, they make pretty good money in revenue. For quarterly, we're talking. I mean, this was a great quarter clearly because their 6 month is only 1.9. But if they made the same amount, you're looking at maybe 4 million for the year. That's pretty good for where they're at as far as market cap and outstanding shares. This is a company that if they do the right things, they make the right moves, this company could be worth, hundreds of millions in the future as far as their stock price goes. If that's the case and they do get to that price point, this stock would be, if it got to where the company was worth $500 million, which believe it or not is very, very possible, then this company's stock price would be at almost, it would be over $10. So a little under $10. So definitely worth looking at. Definitely worth checking in to see if you're trying to invest in that one. Couple more left. So this one again, same story. So just look at it, outstanding shares, all that. And you look at the revenue on this one. Let's see when they did their quarterly back in August. So let's look at that. Assets, quite a bit in assets. To have 7 million in assets is fun, sure. And then in sales, they do pretty darn good. I mean, 2 million. Again, we've seen the other companies, so we know this is hard to find. They do pretty good for themselves. Definitely worth looking into it and seeing if this is one that you can live with investing in, because it could be worth big money in the future. So next one, again, same story. One of the lowest outstanding shares I've seen. And market cap to match. So this one could fly. I mean, it could go up so fast your head would spin, and it really depends on these things. So let's go into it. Assets. They have about 4 million in assets. Definitely a good thing. Total assets, including everything, is about 8 million. So again, pretty darn good. We're not going to do all the math and weigh it against the liabilities, but 2 million in revenue. That's good, really good for, again, it's a marijuana company in a place where it's not fully legal. When this thing goes fully legal, it's what a 20. They say, what do they say? 200 billion or something like that. It's crazy. So if each one of these picks becomes worth $1 billion each, there would still be room for another 5 companies worth $1 billion. And these companies at $1 billion, you're making 100 to 1,000 times your money. So it's worth getting into it if you're investing. This is where you want to be, in my opinion. All right, this is one where it's dirt cheap right now. I've been watching it for quite some time. 84,000 shares outstanding. Market cap is only $500,000. So that could be bad. That could be good. Let's take a look at it. Outstanding shares is extremely low. It looks like the last quarterly that they put out, that you can see on TD Ameritrade anyways, is from 2017. That's not normally a good sign. And it looks like it's just a, let's see. This doesn't even, this is just notifying that there's going to be a late filing. So that's not even a financial report. Looks like there's an acquisition statement. They either acquired a company or got acquired by a company. Not sure. We'll get into that. on another video. We'll have to, but it's still trading. I would be interested to go to the SEC website and find out how much this company is actually making. Not going to do that on this video, but if I was you, I would definitely do that. And I'll do an update video again on my own time. That way we can go through it. Another company, 2 million. So something to say on for this company. If this company makes anywhere near a $500,000 or $1 million or whatever, I would buy a boatload of this, just because if as soon as the it's legalized and this company is making more than its market cap, the market cap would probably go to 10-20 million. You'll make 200 times your money, 20 times your money, whatever. If it's one time your money, it's still good. Market cap here, 2 million. Pretty high outstanding shares. So let's go ahead and look at the filings. So quarterly financials. Let's pull it up here real quick. All right, assets, total assets, 1 million is pretty good. Again, having $1 million in assets isn't bad. Let's see. So rental revenue looks like making about 600,000. Not terrible. We've seen worse. Just in this last thing, so it's pretty good. When you think their market cap is only 2 million, and they're making 600,000. That's pretty good. If they grow any, then this stock would fly. So it's just another one of those. This is kind of a trend. I'm showing the companies that are set to kind of explode as long as they make the right moves. And you can make big money. I mean, if you have it, you put $100 in each one of these stocks, I'd be willing to bet you're going to make a lot of money on one of them. So last one, and probably one of my favorites that I've seen in a long time, Blue Line Protection Group. So this is a security company that specifically works for either celebrities or it's pretty much all marijuana at this point. So it is the only, and I scoured the entire internet. It's pretty much the only security company that does marijuana. They control the market in Colorado. They control the market in Washington. They are the market as far as security goes. So if you're looking for a security company in either one of those states where it's recreationally legal, this is the company you go through. Now, that market cap says $1 million. You're going to poop your pants when you see this. So market cap $1 million. If you go down and you look at their assets, they have $500,000 in assets, okay? Ton of liabilities. And the liabilities can be a lot of different things. So you just got to keep in mind, sometimes it takes money to make money, but still, liabilities there. But then when we look at their revenue, for a 6-month period, $2 million. Their market cap was $1 million. They have $2 million in revenue. As soon as this company gets put out, as soon as it becomes common knowledge that this company exists, as long as they don't mess it up and increase the outstanding shares by a bunch, this company I'd be willing to bet the market cap would go to at least 100 million. At least 100 million. I mean, if it's making almost $4 million a year and growing, and it's going to continue to grow, this company is going to be worth a lot of money. Even if it's 40 million, you're going to make 40 times your money. As long as they don't increase their outstanding shares, 40 times your money. So it's totally worth investing in this one. This is one of my favorites. It is extremely low price, extremely low outstanding shares, and it makes money. It is a rare find. So I would highly recommend looking into this and seeing if it's something that you want to invest in. That's it for today. Pretty long video, but hopefully you got something out of it. I'm going to go into detail on some of these companies and what they do in another video. So I appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully you learned something. Comment below if you have any questions. Subscribe, like, all that, and share. Thank you so much. All right, bye-bye. With me and you gon' find
find out what grinding means. If it ain't about the money, then it's something I don't care about. Too many bitches asking around for my whereabouts. Dinner for 10, I brought my niggas with me. Nothing was given, had to get it simply. Fuck it, let's get it. Bitch, we know you got a job, but look, you hitting out. My niggas working 9 to 5, but that ain't really living up. So I was pushing weight, and you probably couldn't lift it though, but that was back then. Same nigga, things different now. No, you can't come off my block, you crazy. You can't even walk past mine unless you pay me. Who you think earned this shit, bitch, you lazy. Your talk is better. Mozart, I put this art together. Painting pictures with words, leaving my mark wherever. In this Mason and Margiela. Words you can't afford to pronounce. High fashion weekends, we been splurging the couch. Cause I heard that you been speaking, put the bird in your mouth. But shit been okay lately, so we don't gotta go and do that now. Heard your homie broke, he had to go and put rap down. Them niggas talking money till it's time to put cash out. We living off a little more than hope this year. And you look like you been struggling your whole career. This what it's like in the movies, camera just hold it there. I know this might just seem foolish, feel like I'm almost there. Making money off of niggas that look like they need it more than I do. But I can't be broke again. Been locked and I can't sell coke again. So if this rap don't work and this trap don't work, I bet this gang gon' work. See, truthfully, I was never meant to do it, but we ruthless. If nothing else have been moving, I'm in your crib where the loot is. Oh yeah, nigga, we do this. Even